Okay, welcome to part two on how to deal with annoying neighbors. Dealing with annoying neighbors can be a headache, especially if they have a bad attitude. Whether they're lighting fireworks or destroying your property, you probably just want them gone before confronting them. It's important to know how to deal with bad neighbors the right way. In some circumstances, you can even get your neighbors to move if they violated local laws or their term of lease. And there's one thing that people don't think about when they move, and that is their local neighbors. Good neighbors can make living in a below average neighborhood pleasant. Bad neighbors can turn a good home into living hell. If you're wondering how to go about dealing with annoying neighbors, it can be hard to come up with a solution. Okay? Sometimes it's just because they're nuisances. Other times it's because they invite the wrong crowd around or because they leave trash in your yard. Are you wondering what you can do to cope, or is there's any way to stop it? Here's the scoop for each scenario. And I did have neighbors leave trash in my balcony. It would drop down from theirs, and this was every day. So I can totally relate to people having bad neighbors. How to deal with annoying neighbors who don't clean up after themselves or make too much noise. There's nothing worse than dealing with a neighbor who leaves trash everywhere, right? In most cases, a quick chat will make most people recognize that they're being jerks. This can clear up a lot of issues immediately, especially if you offer positive reinforcement. If that doesn't work, you should talk to your local HOA or local code enforcement. If you're dealing with annoying complaints, call the police. Having people who reinforce on hand can take care of issues along these lines. How to deal with rude neighbors. What if your neighbors are just plain rude? If they are the type to hurl insults at you while you work in the yard or try to harass you, ignoring them is the best option. If that isn't going to work, giving them a written warning, telling them to leave you alone is important as documenting the harassment. If they continue to harass you, then you should file a police report and get a lawyer. Suing irate neighbors for harassment is also an option as pressing charges. How to deal with mean neighbors that exclude you. Let's say you moved into a neighborhood that's friendly to just about everyone except you. They whisper about you, they shun you, or maybe they hurl a few rude comments to you. They're downright mean, and they want you to know that you are not welcome here. What can you do? Sadly, you can't force people to like you, but the best thing you can do is find friends outside of town. If they're spreading rumors, consider finding out if you can get evidence of them saying this. It could be regarded as a form of liberal or harassment, of libel or harassment. Okay, how to deal with neighbors who don't respect your boundaries. Once in a while, you'll have irritating neighbors who just don't understand that you have boundaries or that you won't allow them to use your pool. These might be the most annoying neighbors that you can have, even if they don't necessarily mean harm. The best way to enforce boundaries is to remind them of them. If they do not respect your boundaries, ask them to leave. If they don't leave or stop harassing you, then it's okay to get the police involved. What about nosy neighbors? Dealing with nosy neighbors is its own topic. But as the most problems relating to bad neighbors, your best bet is to start with a conversation. Make them aware of the problem and hopefully they'll remedy the situation. If they don't, you may want to try and give them some of your own medicine. A lot of bad behavior can be fixed by mirroring it if talking to them doesn't work. Once the shoe is on the other foot, most neighbors realize that they've been acting like pricks and will stop the bad behavior. And that they will stop the bad behavior immediately. But make sure you don't overstep your bounds. The last thing you want to do is to disturb your neighbors. That may not be causing problems and to wake up noise complaints against you. Okay, so how to deal with annoying neighbors that vandalize. Do you have neighbors who vandalize your property? Invest in cameras, record them in action, and show it to the police. Press charges, sue them, and have your homeowner's insurance policy go through with surrogation. After that, they won't do it again. How to get annoying neighbors to move. Though it's rare, there are occasional moments where your neighbors can become ungodly nuisance that you need to make them leave. In most situations like this, they're not going to be the only one suffering from the issue. Here's what to do. Reach out to other neighbors. The first thing you should do, you want to get your neighbors to move, is to speak to the neighbors that also want them gone. Ask them if they've dealt with police issues or lawsuits. So compile evidence from police reports, damage, photos, insurance companies, and lawyers who may have had to handle them. Pass around a petition asking them to move. Most people in the neighborhood will sign it if they are a true nightmare. It doesn't have to be many signatures either. Just the surrounding neighbors will be enough. So this is a petition that is asking your neighbors to move. I like this idea. Okay? Take it up with the neighbor's landlord or HOA. In many areas, your neighbors will be renting from someone of part of a HOA. This means they will be responsible for respecting certain rules and regulations. If they are bothering you, report their behavior. That's essential. Depending on the severity of the problems, the evidence you compile may be enough to evict them. Check for local nuisance neighbor laws. If nothing else works, consider seeing if your area has nuisance neighbor laws. Though some jurisdictions will allow fellow neighbors to oust a neighbor who has been convicted of certain nuisance violations, you may need to collectively hire a lawyer for this to happen. Next thing they said, should you ask bad neighbors to move? Honestly, asking bad neighbors to move rarely works. The vast majority of neighbors who get a letter asking them to leave will only be put on the defense. This only ends up making you look like a bad neighbor. At the very worst, this could cause your troubled neighbors to decide to retaliate against you. If you really want to make your neighbors move, it's better to take other appropriate actions so they get the message. Most annoying neighbors already know that they are not exactly the best people to move next door. If they don't, they usually pick up on subtle issues like people complaining, regular code violations, lawsuits. Annoying neighbors' bottom line. If you haven't been able to settle anything with your neighbors after repeated police calls, then you may need to realize that they won't leave. At this point, you have to make a tough decision. Do you continue to cope with annoying neighbors, or do you decide that it's time to pack things up? We cannot make the decision for you. However, if you feel like your life, your pets, or your property is in danger, we strongly advise for leaving. After all, it's better to cut your losses than to deal with serious problems later down the line. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I hope it now has helped you understand how to deal with annoying neighbors.